Hello, family. Welcome back to Dark Woke, your direct link to all things politics, comedy, and culture. I am your host, Janaya Future Khan, champ yapper, and frequent nuisance in the activist and comedy worlds. Let's get dialed in. But just before we jump, Dark Woke is a self-funded, self-produced show. We're on Patreon/Dark Woke. I am so grateful for all the support and for you just taking the time to listen. Okay, we are stacked. You already know because I say this every time, but indulge me. I woke up and I was not cute anymore. Do you know when that happens? Like you have been on a hot streak for like several days, maybe even weeks. And then you wake up one day and I don't know if it's because the pillowcases need washing or fascism, but you're just like, okay, I'm in my uncute era. I'm having several days where the face that hasn't visibly changed is now monstrous. It's like what I look in and see in the mirror right now is when somebody reverses the selfie cam and I see what other people see and I'm just like, no, baby, I'm not symmetrical like that. You can't, it's an assault. It's an assault. And in that time, I got pimples. I got the ones, the under the skin one on the cheek. I just want you to feel bad for me. I'm wearing a cute little Band-Aid though, one of those pimple patches, so we're all good. But what is that? Is that called something when you wake up and you're ugly, but nothing has changed? Maybe it's my insides. Maybe it's my insides. Something has gone ugly inside. Speaking of ugly insides, that's like a great time to talk about what the fuck is happening in the FBI. But don't worry, we're going to hit the SAG stuff. We're going to hit Hunter Schafer stuff. We're going to hit the new left stuff we left behind. But I just have been grappling with this Kash Patel shit, right? Kash Patel is the new director of the FBI. That's right, right? The FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigations. That's this guy. See, this is an attack dog for Trump. He believes in conspiracy theories. He's a scammer of the highest order. This guy sells merch. And the brand, the merch, his merch is cash. It's K $SH. I hate him so much. He sells vaccine reversal pills. What is that even? That's not a thing. That's not a thing. Vaccines just run their fucking course. That's why we needed. Okay. I'm going to just say this. I would not, like Kash Patel is not even qualified to sell you a cell phone plan from a mall kiosk. This is a scammer of the highest fucking order. Like I almost forgot the swear word there. So this guy now has decided that Dan Bongino is going to be his deputy FBI director. So essentially his second in command. So who is Dan Bongino? He's this mega podcaster that is obsessed with like conspiracy theories. Very much, you know, the election, the 2020 election was stolen. Very much on the COVID train of like the vaccine was just some massive psyop, right? They describe the symptoms from the vaccine as if the symptoms are not from COVID itself, and they would have been so much worse without it. Okay. So here's the thing. Dan Bongino is a guy that is very well known on the other side. He's got like collectively like 6 million followers. He's a former Secret Service agent and NYPD officer, right? Who has mounted several unsuccessful bids for Congress before he pivoted his way into media commentary. He launched his own website in 2019, his podcast, his radio show, and he very much just sort of filled the place of like Rush Limbaugh. So he's also very scary in the eyes. Like he's just, you know what? Matter of fact, Dan Bongino is a national treasure. He's an alpha male and he's just asking questions. That's all he is. Do you know, this whole administration, they're all alpha males. Do you know, like, it just occurred to me because they're all so performative. I'm like, you've got to be extremely gay to be this straight. That's the only way. You've got to be so gay to be that straight. That's wild. Like this, it's just a bunch of roided out millionaire, billionaire, drug-addled, fucking dementia-having losers. And I think that's the part that I can't get over. It's that they're such losers. They're losers who understand how to exploit pain in a country. They're really good at that. And, there's other issues, blah, 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 right? But, a tiny rift to be aware of is, the whole Musk, now Kash Patel and Dan Von Jr. You're going to have wires that are going to get crossed, and you're going to have toes that are going to get stepped on, right? So a rift appeared today. I'm recording this Sunday night, right? So Trump's agency heads and Elon Musk, right? This is Elon Musk who is running Doge, and there's a whole lot to be. I mean, I might just cover it tomorrow. What a fucking deadbeat daddy is. He's just cruel. Elon Musk is just so unbelievably stupid and cruel, but not stupid like not smart. Like willfully ignorant, very petty, vindictive, brain shrinkage dumb. Like he's the type of person who might have been smart under different circumstances, but the fucking ketamine and his pettiness and the egomania has just rotted his brain. Like he's like, I'm become meme. And I'm just like he said that on a stage. Like I think it was at CPAC. And it's just pathetic. It's so, anyway, okay, sorry. Anyway, so Elon Musk put out this whole thing. He's made a demand that all federal employees state their weekly accomplishments or risk termination. So everything is about how to make these people as uncomfortable as possible. But by Sunday evening, leaders of the Pentagon, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, State Department, Department of Homeland Security, and Department of Energy all had instructed their staff not to reply to that email that came from the Office of Personal Management on Saturday afternoon, right? It's with the subject line, what did you do last week? All of this is a fucking, it's all a show. It's all a show while they work tirelessly to make sure they get their tax break in, throw trans issues at the American people, start talking about all these trillions of dollars they're saving. By the way, they just lie about that. They said they save like, I don't know, $100 and something million when they save like $500,000. They just lie. And I will never get over how many straight men love to glaze these very clear homosexuals. Like just glaze them. Okay. Yeah. So they were like, these like folks from the Department of Homeland Security, et cetera, were just like, no, you're not going to comply with that request. You're not going to do that. We're not going to respond to this answer. So where that rift will go, we'll see. But I'm so like, all of these idiot podcast people were like idiot Fox News commentators. He's just stacking it up with his homies. It's all about creating loyalist troops. And that's the whole point of this whole quote, like reform thing, right? The whole point of this is to stack up it's to purge out anybody that might be critical or might be a thinking person or a human person with something to say. They want to just remove anybody with a point of view. So a lot of, and I've read countless tales now of people who voted for Trump who were like, wow, my insulin was $6 under Biden. Now it's too expensive for me to afford. Or I didn't know that my grandmother was going to be deported because they said that they were not going to come for documented people. I am not a FAFO person, the whole fuck around, find out. That's really not my game. I'm more like, what do you want to do with that information? Now that you know what you know, what does that change for you? That's the part that I'm not seeing, right? Like I'm not getting enough of that. And even when I see the people playing on a CNN spot, I'm not getting that. Okay, so what does that mean? Because the cognitive dissonance, the conceptual, the inability, I think, to have a coherent body politic is very jarring to me, but it's true. Our politics are not coherent, right? They're not a straight line. And I think that's kind of awesome. But when it comes to something like fascism, right? And this whole, like I could like have Hitler right? And fucking like take him and his raggedy little bitch ass, you know, and fucking put him under the what's that thing called? What's the thing? Hold on. The thing that beheads people with the executioner. What's it called again? Mechanism that beheaded people. Can you hear me typing? Guillotine. That's right. Right. I was like, I know it's French because they came up with some of the coolest shit. Awful shit, but cool. It's like Bjork said, you know, we have wonderful, weird, odd things in the world, you know. We've got like reptiles and shit. And then she goes, we have French people. We have forests and French people. Just she's a keeper. But yeah, just if I dragged Hitler out to the guillotine and I put him under it, there would be people in the crowd who was like, so much for the tolerant left. Shut the fuck up. Like we are not tolerant of fascism. That's just a baseline for what we are. And I am more than willing to organize with anybody who changes their mind, anybody who is like, you know what? This shit impacted me now, so I'm upset, but it wasn't impacting me before, so I don't care. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a damn about that. I change your mind, grow, evolve. I want to know what happens with what are we going to do with what we know? That's the question that has not been properly addressed for us across the left and for anybody who is changing their mind or is like, wow, this is impacting me now. I would like things to change. I'm going to play this. I wonder if I should just jump in. You know what? I think let's just do of the moment shit. I just want to play this Hunter Schafer video. So basically, Hunter Schafer, the actor, trans woman, famous, right? She made a post that basically was just like, I think it maybe on TikTok or on Reels, but basically, you know, that her passport had changed to an M and her response to that. So I'm just going to play that right quick because it's something we got to talk about. Something we definitely got to talk about. Here we go.
Today, I saw it on my new passport mail.
So she's holding up her passport for those who are just my audio people.
So now to specify, my gender markers were first changed in my teens when I first got my driver's license, and then passports following all have been female since then. Hasn't really been a problem. I've had to do this one time before. No part of the process was different. I filled everything out just like I normally would. I put female, and when it was picked up today and I opened it up, they had changed the marker to male. And I'm not.
So somebody made that, like they changed the practices in office almost immediately. So as soon as they got into office, right, they made a series of, they did the whole shock and awe muzzle velocity shit, all the executive orders that they were going to put out. But one of the first things that they did, one of the very first things that they did was go after, they completely gutted anything abortion or reproductive rights.gov, right, on their .gov. It's gone immediately. And then it was like a scaling back and a rolling back of any, you know, pro-trans legislation or accommodations that have been made. So the effect of this, right, we got passports, the effect of it was not immediately seen because people needed to start renewing these things. And so somebody, right, saw this, looked up Hunter Schafer and was like, oh, now we have to do this thing where it has to be your biological sex. So they have this in her file. They change it, right? So she's had a precedent. It's not like this is just happening immediately or she's trying to do this for the first time. This is a precedent. So I'm just going to like pause it for a second here because I want to keep playing the video, but I want to ask, right? Because I always go to what is the argument? What is the argument that you're trying to make? And this is one thing where me and the boys get along really well. Because I love when people are like, men weaponize and they weaponize therapy speak. I'm like, if you talk to men a lot, they just that's what they do with information. You could get a nigga screaming about what type of heels Dorothy was wearing in Oz if that's the idea that he's asserted. So men just generally weaponize information. They assert information. And then the idea is like the hope is actually that you rebuttal or engage with that assertion, which is, I mean, it's something I really enjoy. So I start from that place, which is what is the argument and the logic for this? And sometimes, with things like racism, they're not run by logic and that can make you feel really sick. But what is the argument for this? So the argument for this would be one of national security. So you've got to ask yourself, right? Because that's what these dummies, I mean, obviously this is just straight up fucking transphobia, but I like to go through the steps because I like to win. So, and I like to practice. I practice in my head. So this is an example where you say, what is the argument for this? Like, let's remove the transphobia from it, right? Is there a security risk? So you have to ask yourself, what makes it a security risk now when her entire life it wasn't one? What's changed, right? How is Hunter Schafer's F signifier suddenly some threat to national security when it hasn't been all of these years prior to? That's the question, right? Anyway, let me keep playing this.
Not making this post to fearmonger or to create like drama or receive consolation. I don't need it, but I do think it's worth posting to sort of note the reality of the situation and that it is actually happening. And I was shocked. Because I don't know. I just didn't think it was actually going to happen.
Yeah. And that's just a really vulnerable and honest thing to put out there. I really appreciate it personally because I think that is a lot of us, right? And especially if somebody has a different quality of life or, has a team of people who help and work things out and whatever, you'd think, okay, well, this is something surely, and surely there's all this precedent. But this is a very, very demonic and cruel administration that is using trans people as a lightning rod issue, as a cultural issue, so that we're never looking at the systemic one, so that we're never looking up at the powers that be. And what's sad is how many people buy into it. That's what's fucking sad. Because who the fuck cares if a trans girl did a fucking Bud Light commercial or whatever the fuck, right? Who cares? But these niggas, they think about trans people more than I think about trans people, which is more than I want to. And they think about trans people more than white trans women think about trans people, it's that and gaming. Those are their two favorite subject matters. Right? That's a lot. So some of it is just religious fucking hatred and all that other bullshit. But a lot of it is just straight up disgusting, manipulative, cruel behavior.
And I want to acknowledge my privilege, not only as a famous or celebrity trans woman who is white and thin and can adhere to
honestly, as much as I don't care for the fact that listing these things, she says it, because if she didn't, somebody'd be like, especially because you're all of these things. But I do understand it's to really illustrate. In this case, Hunter is saying it to really illustrate that nobody is insulated from being touched by this administration. I was going to make a very dark joke that belongs on a stage, but I think we all know what side the perverts are on. And there's another P word there. Anyway. And it's, for the record, it's not ours.
contemporary beauty standards, and I can participate in all of that. And I pass, and it still happened. This has happened to me since I changed my gender marker.
If you picked that up, sorry, that was me cracking my neck. I really hope you didn't, because it probably would have sounded disgusting.
We're coming up on a decade now or something. And I do believe it is a direct result of the administration our country is currently operating under. I also want to say, I don't give a that they put an M on my passport. It doesn't change really anything about me or my transness. However, it does make life a little harder. This is getting very long, but I just want to say, trans people are beautiful. We are never going to stop existing. I'm never going to stop being trans. A letter and a passport can't change that, and this administration. And
Love that
I don't really
energy.
have an answer on what to do about this, but I feel it was important to share.
And
This is real.
This is real.
Today.
And I fuck with that. Like this is real. And I just, I've had, as some of you know, I've had trouble with travel. And generally one of you is gonna, I was gonna make another joke, and I was just like, fuck. I just like, you know what? Better to do it now. Whatever. I was just like, I'm gonna have to marry somebody else, because anywho, this is again, like, Hunter Schafer is somebody who's consistently been like, I do not want to be an activist. I'm just trans. Like, I just happen to be trans. I'm an actor, and that's the thing I want to do. And nobody gets away from the reach of this administration. Laws are only as effective as they are enforced. And this is an administration that is very much invested in humiliating trans people. But a big reason for that is because they know if they keep attacking trans issues, we will keep responding and being reactive to it. And this is the thing. There's a difference between being reactive and reactionary, right? And it's the opposite of what I want to think. I want to think reactive is the good one, but when you think about it, it's like nuclear. It's reactive, right? We are responding to exactly what is being put in front of us, and that's it. And my thoughts on this. Gender, when it comes to transness, at least, is very, like, if I make a post about being trans, which I'm gonna have to start doing now because I got to draw attention to the show, but it's it's all positive and it spreads. But if I make a post about migrant justice or race, if I make a post about women, that shit's not doing numbers the same way, and that's really weird. But it's true. Like, we lost trans rights when we lost reproductive justice because we lost body autonomy, right? So we have to be really mindful that even though I want to roll my eyes at it, I do need to be, like I mentioned, I needed to pivot because I had these criticisms that were very much for a Democrat administration, a Democratic administration. This is not a Democratic administration. This is a fascist one. And I need to do my work of building trust so that these pushbacks or criticisms or calls to growth are things that, that I'm trusted in and trusted on, which I can't do if I just keep taking shots, right? Because not everybody knows. Nobody knows who I am. You know what I mean? So I can't take for granted what people know. And that's the main thing that we need to walk with. We cannot take for granted what people know or don't know. I can't take for granted what you know or don't know, and vice versa. And so we have this great opportunity for political education. And that's where I want to tap in. Like, that's really where I want to live, right? Because the blowback is going to be fucking massive. I mean, Trump canceled the gay men's chorus performance at the Kennedy Center for World Pride. Like, there are several musicals about to be made about this bitch nigga. Like, there's going to be so many musicals of those little fucking hands and that fucking stupid hair And there's gonna and just I hope they erase Musk entirely, because that's all he cares about. All he cares about is being somebody that people are talking about. He doesn't even care what's being said, although he low-key does. Like, he's obsessed with it. This guy Googles his name and he would jerk off, but his dick doesn't work. And I only know this because Azalea Banks said so, and that's because Grimes told her. I'm gonna just say, AZ might be a little, I'm doing the crazy in the eyes sign, right? A little crazy in the eyes. But she might have some wild takes, but she's not known to be a liar. I'll just say that. There's a lot of IVF going on, a lot of IVF. And remember that this administration was against that. But Elon Musk needs it because he needs to have more children that he can ignore and pretend that doesn't exist. By the way, yes, he is trying to ensure that all custody and everything else that's happening goes through Texas because they have the lowest, what's it called? Child support rates. Because it's not linked to your income in Texas. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Like, this guy who lives off of government subsidies, right? And is just a deadbeat piece of shit dad is like exactly who people claim to hate. Like I said, like, well, the welfare system does function really beautifully for the super rich, unbelievably well for the super rich. And even that child support shit, that's just an attack on, it's more attack on women. Like, it's just an endless assault against women. So we're going to make bitches cool again, and we're going to make everything fucking cool again. And we're going to do that while we sort of insulate trans folks. But I just want to, there was a clip that I wanted to play that I didn't get to play last week. That is essentially, first I'm going to hit us with this Pete Buttigieg. And, you know, I'm going to tell you something, right? Because we were talking about how do we approach this new shit? Like, okay, so people hate trans people for whatever reason. I'm like, you want to talk about how annoying we are? Let's talk. Let's fucking go. But the idea that trans people are the cause of decline in society is just one of the most laughable fucking things, right? So how do we approach that conversation, though? Do we just start having debates about, you know, whether or not trans athletes should exist when we've lost it? That we have to think about how to approach it, right? So think about the passport conversation. They say that it's to aid in accurate identification at borders, right? So this allows border control agents, to visually verify if the person presenting the passport matches the physical description associated with the listed sex, right? That's not going to work with most trans people. This has nothing to, like, this truly falls apart. And then you have to ask, okay, well, what incidents happen where, you know, somebody has lied about their gender and then done some, like, what are you talking about? Even in bathrooms, right? Men, oh yes, it's all about finding girls in bathrooms. And when the fuck have men ever needed some elaborate ruse dressing up like a woman to do harm to women and girls? Never. It's literally never happened. It's just drag queens reading books to kids, like some of the fucking coolest, most awesome people on the planet telling you about self-acceptance. I mean, they banned freckles. Oh my God. They even went after the gingers. You guys know how I feel about that. I'm upset. Leave the gingers alone. The girl ones, anyway. I read somewhere, it's so funny. The girls are like beautiful, and the boy gingers are considered an omen, like a bad omen. Anyway, I'm gonna play this Pete Buttigieg clip for you because I like how he talks about it and how we need to think about educating people on trans issues that don't start with "you're a monster" if they don't immediately agree.
The thing we're not talking about enough, while we talk about what we have to say and how we have to say it, is where we say it. I think that's become a huge gap in the way that our party has approached politics. And one way to illustrate it is, I think, something folks have been saying that I think tries to get at this problem, but also completely demonstrates an inability to see what's in front of us. And that's this idea that, well, if only we had a Rogan of the left. I
want to tear my fucking eyes out at this it's like, oh God, we need a Rogan of the left. And then boom. And then it's like, Hassan, we have Hassan. And it's like, Hassan is not out here waxing poetic about like lying about fucking vaccines and shit. Like he's not dealing in conspiracy theories. He's dealing in reality. So we're not even comparable, but to oversimplify the myriad issues that happen around our message box by just like, we just need a face and a name. Rogan is part of an information system, like literally like an ecosystem that we talked about. I mean, I literally played that clip a couple episodes ago of Jesse Waters breaking down how that information pipeline works. But it is a logical thing to ask, like, do we need more of those people? And this is where I think more along the lines of what we should be thinking about, because we don't need a Rogan on the left, but we do need a loud fucking left.
That's what we need. We need a Joe Rogan, but for the left. And if we had that, that's the kind of thing that we'd be reaching some of the people we're not reaching. Problem is, Rogan, people aren't listening to Rogan because they view it as being of the right. They don't think of it as political at all. Mm-hmm. They're not looking for politics. They're looking for what protein powder to use and an interesting podcast, and the politics finds them. And some seasons it's Bernie, and some seasons it's Trump. That's why it's worth listening to people who are not consuming political television.
While he's skating over a lot, he is essentially right. It's not so much that people are not interested in politics, which they, I mean, to be perfectly frank, are just not. That work happens in culture work. But also in like any fucking, if you are under 40, 45 years old, you're a dude. I told you, I'm all up in the manosphere, right? When fucking old boy and Joe Budden have a fight, I know about it. Streamer beefs, I know about it. Did that Asian girl say the N-word? No, she didn't. You know, streamer shit. I like the shit. I'm in the shit. If you are of a certain age, you're gonna get red pilled. It just happens because dudes just casually have a very right wing way of thinking or dealing with things, where when they're talking, like they're the names and they're the faces. So when you bring them on, that shit's going to come up. And like COVID wasn't immediately seen as, it was turned into this very serious political issue that honestly was a huge breakpoint for the small little pieces of normalcy we still had. And it just fucking, we're antisocial, we're fucking weird. The gray matter in our brains have fucking shrunk. Like, if you bring up, I'm all for questioning anything. Actually, I think curiosity is something we should keep alive in our relationships and ourselves. Even if Sula is like just looking at something different, I'm like, oh, what is that? What's going on? She loves it, right? We'll just stare out the window together like two little dummies. I'm trying to find the piece of lint that's captured her attention. But that's not where we're at anymore. It's just like Woody Harrelson, who I love, was on Rogan's podcast, and they're just like yapping about the fucking vaccine. I'm like, Rogan loves Musk too much. So there's a lack of curiosity that we're seeing abundantly across the right. But the thing is, we've had that across the left for a lot longer. And it's partly because of our disdain for curiosity, right? Like we should just accept these blanket statements without any kind of interrogation. But even trans women or women requires a kind of interrogation, because how can you defend that position beyond it? What are the different ways that we could say it? How do we win those arguments and those debates? And I'm all for not having to debate the existence of certain populations of people, but amongst each other, yeah, we do need to model that, right? Because if the issue isn't, I'm not saying these people should exist, I don't know how to make sense of this, then we have a duty to actually break that shit down. And I'm realizing, as you all know, on this journey together, that it's like culture, not politics forward. So we shouldn't be necessarily just, if somebody's bringing some bullshit up about trans kids and whatever, yeah, I'm going to hit you with some, I'm going to make sure some things are known. But I'm going to like ask some questions of you and your fucking motivations. Anyway, now I'm just going off. Like, let me just keep this shit moving.
So I'm known for going on Fox, and I believe that's a smart thing for Democrats to do, and I wish more Democrats would do it. But what I'm really worried about are the people who are not watching CNN or Fox. and who are...
I'm worried about that too.
A lot of folks
I hated that laugh. Didn't you just hate that? Ugh. Ugh. Take the blazers off for 5 fucking minutes.
aren't looking
Shut up, Hakeem. Sorry, call back.
for political content, but it's finding them. And it's finding them wrapped up in a lot of cultural stuff. You could be on parenting Instagram and you're getting this trad wife stuff with a little politics inflected into it, or Rogan or the rest of it. And I think we really need to be much smarter about taking this conversation to places where it's not reaching folks, because otherwise I do think we run the risk of doing what anybody who's been in any committed relationship or marriage knows you shouldn't be doing. I mean, if your spouse or partner comes to you upset with you, and you proceed to say, you're wrong to be upset. Here's why you're wrong to be upset. You should be much happier than you are.
Yeah.
You know what's going to happen next, right?
I've run the experiment. It's not good.
No, but literally, they're totally right. And what I love, like Buttigieg versus like a Dean. What's that boy's name? He's like 20, little Gen Z boy. He goes by like Dean, Love Dean. That's right. He goes by Love Dean. And he just debates all of these. No, that's, am I making this up? Hold on. Is it Withers? Oh, fuck off. Yes. Okay. It's Dean Withers. Okay. It's Dean Withers. And like, I really appreciate what he does. Right. But it's not the work. He's needed. So this is a 20-year-old kid. He's really quick. He's super sharp. And, you know, he's said some stupid shit in the past and doesn't allow that to define him, which I think is fucking awesome. He's a white kid in America. So, yeah, who probably it was all up in the culture shit. White teenage boy. Yeah, he definitely dropped the N-bomb at some point. I don't give a fuck if he's different now. And he's very different now. But he's out here and he's, you know, owning, you know, these conservatives and showing their, you know, their gaps in their logic. And, you know, that there's a role for that. But I actually think that our role is really different. Our role here is to model how we got from point A to point fucking B. It's like a mixture of Dean and Buttigieg. Like I really fuck with how Buttigieg handles these. He's because you know the guys will come at him with hyperbole and nonsense on Fox News, and he just fucking owns them. But oftentimes he'll just ask a question, which is like, why does this matter to you so much when you know that these things are happening? Jon Stewart does the same thing. Now, speaking of Jon Stewart, and I'm just going to wrap it up here because I know I'm on a time limit. But speaking of Jon Stewart, there's been a push, right? There's been a big push. Big push, because remember, right now, and we're moving out of it, like we're getting back into the fucking swing, like it's time to model it, not just incubate. But it's like, okay, we need spectacle, right? That's what these debate shows, or I mean, they're not even debates, they're just owning, but that's where they're good. But they're getting a lot of views, they're getting a lot of eyes. Do people walk away knowing something? No, and it can be satisfying, I think, for younger people, but we are drawn to spectacle. We love fucking entertainment. So this is Stephen A. Smith. Right, the blowhard from ESPN, etc. But he's very well known. He's very enigmatic, very, very black, with more definitely like GOP leaning politics. He's got, like many black men, he's got like sound racial analysis when it comes to like his his experiences. So he, like, you know, but then it kind of like gets a bit weaker when you move out of that. But still, he's a sensible man. He is common sense, and he's the take no nonsense guy. So there's him and Jon Stewart have been floated as potentials for 20, you know, for our fucking 2029. But again, like I mean, we already know that this administration is actually going to do everything they can to disrupt that process. But let me just play this clip. So this is Stephen Smith, and he was on Pod Save America, which, you know, the Obama boys, whatever. And here's one of the guys who names something that is frustrating to hear at this point. But yeah, that's where they're at. Let's play that for you.
Democrats were boring. We're the NBA skills competition where Wemby's cheating, while Trump is the USA-Canada hockey game where there's 3 fights in 10 seconds and you can't look away. And like I don't know how to compete with that. We don't have a leader who can compete with that. We don't have a party that can compete with that. We don't have a message that can compete with that.
But tell why. You can't compete with that, and you don't have that. I'm not talking about you specifically, of course.
I know.
I mean, you could be.
Oh, I know.
About Democratic Party. You don't know that, and you can't compete with that for the biggest reason of all. Because y'all are too busy trying to pick candidates for the American people instead of listening to the American people tell you who they want.
Listen. Now, this is a pivot. What he's talking about is establishment Dems, and they are a fucking rot. They are a rot. They have got to go.
The last Democrat that the American people told you they wanted was Barack Obama. Hillary Clinton, it's her turn. Bernie Sanders had momentum. It's Hillary's turn. Joe Biden captured momentum because Representative Clyburn got involved in South Carolina, saved his behind, but it's really, really his turn, okay? He has no business running for re-election, but everybody went for it, knowing he was supposed to be transitional. He's going to be 81 years of age. Then you sit up there. He doesn't have a primary. Then he goes on the debate stage, embarrasses himself. Then y'all still let him take 3 damn weeks to walk away instead of getting the hell out there immediately so you can see if there's somebody other than Kamala Harris who could be the Democratic nominee. Then she gets the nomination, and everybody wants to act like she's the rock star all of y'all wanted all along.
He actually does sports analysis exactly like this, and I'm enjoying. I'm enjoying the show.
Oh my God, let's throw up our hands and just to say, hey, she is the one. When you know good and damn well that wasn't the truth. Meanwhile, Trump has been around since 2015. They had Christie, they had Kasich, they had Fiorini, I believe her name is.
Yep, Carly Fiorina.
Later on, you had DeSantis, you had Nikki Haley, you had Ramaswamy, you had all of these people. It didn't matter. We went through lawfare and all this stuff. It didn't matter. They looked the public in the face and they said, we want him. We don't care what y'all want, and forced the Republican Party to capitulate to the demands of their constituents.
Now, this is the key fucking point right here. This is the key fucking point, right? They bow down to the demands of their base. And look, we can have as many judgments as we want about their fucking the whole fascist agenda thing. I mean, that is ultimately the thing. But like this is objectively fucking true. This is objectively true. A lot of establishment Republicans did not want Donald Trump back in. They didn't, but they knew they were not going to win without him. They had no choice but to listen to their base. We have the establishment Dems do not feel that type of fear from us.
That's what they did. The Democrats somehow, some way, have gotten away with ignoring the constituency and compelling the constituency to capitulate to what they want as a party. And that is the problem. And that's why I said it all needs to go. Some of those candidates need to go. The pundits, the strategists, they need to go.
Clean it up.
Whoever was involved with the latest election, from a strategy standpoint, every one of them should be fired. Every one of them.
I mean, just the passion. Give me the passion. Give me the passion. But that's it. That's the game, right? That's it. It's like AOC's entire fucking team, Maxwell Frost, Jasmine Crockett, their teams should be running the whole fucking show. And they're not right now, but they will be. And what I need us to figure out is, because we have so much fun. I've come to understand that genuinely from the bottom of our hearts. I think the lefts really believe that our primary objective is to criticize the liberals. They try to do some shit. Because I'm like, I can't point to any singular thing that any of the people were like, don't vote. I can't point to anything that they've accomplished. And it's not to say that the positions, you already know I have a very nuanced take on that. But I'm going to tell you something. And this is the only thing I care about moving forward, right? While we're talking about the culture, it's about the results. It's not about your fucking beliefs. I don't give a fuck about your beliefs if you don't have results to back it up. What is the point? I say I love trans people. If I don't have results for that love, what the fuck am I talking about, right? I want us to love that way. It's about the results. And yes, I did get that from the Wizard King and Black Clover. But that shit, when I tell you, I lay awake that night just being like, God damn. Having heard that, I'm like, it's about the results. everything that we love, everything that we care about, everything that we chase, everything that we dream, everything that we long for, everything that we want, right? What stops it from just being a diary entry is it's about the results. And you know what? It's okay if the results aren't massive. It's okay as long as you can point to something. Do one thing a day that reminds you of who the fuck you are. I don't care how small it is. Do it. Because everything in this world is out here to remind us, or rather to tell you that you are nothing. And that there is no amount of work or impact you can have that will be at scale. I come from nothing. And I wasn't ever supposed to be anybody. And I decided that I wanted to be somebody. I decided that I had something to say. And in saying it, I became somebody. Does that make sense? I was nobody. And it wasn't how many ears heard me or how many eyes saw me or whatever, and whatever non-ableist thing I could say, right? It was that I actualized when I put my beliefs in action. I became a different version of myself. And that's the only reason why we're here, to evolve, to embody, to become. Right? This nigga said, I'm become meme, fucking bitch, raggedy bitch. Yeah, you have become that. You're a fucking joke. You're a joke. Imagine being the richest person on the planet and the most reviled, the least helpful. I hope that you're remembered in the way that monsters are remembered. And I'll do what I can to ensure that. But more than that, I want to be the champion for our champions. So, oh shit, here we go. I'm going off again. Okay. I'm going to play the question. Let's look at this. You shouldn't have given me 45. Look at me fucking creeping up like an asshole. Just creeping it up. But we're looking for answers. And I think, just to summarize this whole episode, we're looking for answers. And the good thing is that I think seeking is a very powerful thing. We're not running off of conclusions. I think we have to clean up our act a little bit on our side to figure out what our actual goals are and how to love each other a lot harder. But I am learning and growing in this process too, right? Y'all know I was ready to talk some shit. And then I was like, should I be doing that in every space, every time that I get, right? Or is that just me fucking being a little egomaniac myself? It's like, yeah, I should be of service first. I have to be of service first. It's very much the same thing. Damn, I really haven't been good on the questions. So let me just play a question right quick. And then we're probably going to round this out at the 50-minute mark. Yeah. Here we go.
Hey, Janaya. This is Amber in Seattle, Washington. How's it going?
Sick.
First, let me just take a moment to extol some of your virtues. Your analysis, your content is just so funny and intersectional and sharp, and I really just appreciate what you bring to the table. If Elon Musk doesn't cancel my federal tax refund, I will definitely be chipping in. So here's my question. This is not my first rodeo, but I do have a kid now. And I live in Seattle, and the streets of Seattle are being overtaken by Teslas and Cybertrucks. And, our city council has swung really far center, I think is what we're calling it now. And, with all the goings on in the nation's capital and in our country, I'm feeling pretty legitimately and justifiably terrified. So I want to know what your thoughts are on armed resistance. I'm thinking about Black Panthers. I'm thinking about Brown Berets, the various armed resistance that happened during World War II against the Nazis. What place do you think that has in how we deal with the current administration and the place we find ourselves in right now? And, obviously, to CYA a little bit, we know you would never advocate for violence or put a call to action out for violence to occur. Thanks.
Thanks for saying what? No. Listen. I think, and I'm speaking only in the context of here. I think it's always good to be like well versed in what has happened and to understand the time that we're in now. So when I think of the Panthers, for example, and how gun laws completely changed to ensure that Black people couldn't get guns, right? Like that's the only time that we've seen any kind of fucking gun fucking restraint in this country. They were like, oh my God, the nignogs, they've armed themselves, and it was a very powerful image. I think of Malcolm in that window. And the question for me is, did it save us? And it's not that. I think that having skills, as many skills as possible, I'm talking in a very way, we need the skills, right? Have as many skills as possible. And I it's why I was a competitive boxer. It's why I got my blue shorts in Muay Thai. I was like, to what extent can I, protect myself and the people around me who I love? Comparatively, we don't stand a chance against the right. They have literal militias. They have been developing these militias for years. They're libertarian. They're outright. They go from libertarian to just like outright, racist. And I think faster than they can imagine, like the right. Let me tell you something. The right may have listened to their base, but they're also terrified of them in a way that impacts all of us, right? It's not like our threats are like, our demands are like, we want more bread on the table for people, give people health care. We don't want people to be in debt forever. And they're like, kill the naggers and kill the trannies and kill the darkies and kill women, but not the ones for breeding. Like they're nuts. They don't give a shit if their kids got fucking polio and measles. And if their girls are fucking pregnant at 11 because a weird uncle, they don't give a shit. So my thing is always study, and I don't know where we're headed, right? Like I know where we're headed, but generationally, with this generation, I don't know that it's going to come to that place in any way. I do think though we have areas where we are not strong, and I know because I had to debate with, like, I got into it with a white guy who had a ponytail and a Bluetooth earpiece and rimless glasses and sandals. And I'm going to tell you something, them niggas can debate. Those white boys, when you get into it with them, and I realized that I was weak on economy. I couldn't really easily synthesize information. So I read the Pickers, I read the Rutger Bregman's work. I started following people who advise people on their finances just to learn how to talk about and understand economy. So when I say I'm an anti-capitalist, I actually know, and someone's like, oh, you're just against capitalism. And I'm like, actually, no, I'm against all of the systems that stopped the free market from happening. And then it's like, and I could switch it up. I'll be non-binary as hell with that shit, right? I'm just like, oh, you thought I was for free market? Well, I'm actually for this. You don't fucking know me. You can't keep me down. But if we're not well-versed in economy. We're not well-versed in engineering. We're not well-versed in all of these things I can't get into. But there's more than we think, right? And so it's like, oh my God, my answer is so fucking long and meandering. Sorry. I'll shut up. But all to say, I think it's essential that we accrue as many skills as possible. But the ones that our instincts draw us to, which is growing food, living more harmoniously with our immediate environment, understanding how to purify water, even the fucking jars, the queers, they're not wrong about that shit. It is a bit of an allegory for sustainability and for reusing and reapplying. So I like those things for us. I like those things for us. And the last thing I'll say is, because immediately it's like, okay, well, look what happened to Jews, right? What a terrible way to say that sentence. What I mean is, look what a nation state does to people. right? Especially when you've been persecuted. The second that you have one, you're like, we got to defend it. We have to do everything that we can to defend it. So when we think about armed resistance, what is the purpose of it? What are we defending, right? Each other, yes, 100%. But then it goes to, well, we need a place of our own. We need a place of our own. So then and then it expands out. What does that turn into? And I'm not for or against anything at this particular moment. I'm more like just thinking, right? Like Octavia Butler in Parable of the Sower, they got their space. They got their land, right? And that's a win. But when you fast forward and you get into Parable of the Talents, which is the follow-up book, what happened? That shit got bombed to fucking smithereens. That's when she realized that it wasn't about a place, because there's no place that you could hide from. There's no place that you could go to where you couldn't be found. It was about the belief system. Could they infiltrate people's souls? Could they help them understand that way? Could Earthseed turn into that? So, well, you guys, you know what? You said 45 minutes, and I in my head, that was 45 minutes to an hour. I'm going to shut the fuck up now. Jesus. Anyway, I miss you all. And I've had several like really good conversations on sort of how to get this show more, whatever, because I'm not technically skilled. I'm just, I got other skills, but I've had to learn all this shit. Like, I don't know how to, I'm like, how do I stream on YouTube Live or Twitch simultaneously? And then how long should I stay there? And oh my God, and should I even fucking be there? I'm having a good time with this. But I'm thinking through things with you. And this is a reminder to do that thing. Do the thing. I don't care what it is. Whatever it is that's going to remind you, if you're the writer, the painter, the poet in you, whatever it is, I don't care. Doodle. Doodle. Do something. Do something that reminds you of who the fuck you are. Eat something. For me, I needed an avocado. I was bitching about my skin. I needed to wash my cases and eat an avocado. And take my asthma medication, because I'm not going to lie, I got really sloppy with that. And it turns out that deciding I don't have asthma doesn't actually mean that I don't have asthma, which is very rude and honestly racist. Anyway, that's it. I can't wait to talk to y'all tomorrow. Oh my God, I fucking yapped your ear off. Here we go. And thank you for that great question. I just want to say thank y'all so much for listening to Dark Woke. It means the world to me. The show really is a labor of love. New episodes are dropping every day. We are available everywhere podcasts are. Don't forget, Dark Woke is self-funded. If you love the show, feel free to support it at Patreon/DarkWoke. Don't forget, I want to hear from you. Drop your voice note questions to darkwokejfk@gmail.com. Shout out to KR and Carolyn. And shout out to you, the listeners. Then make it all possible. Love you. Peace.